Hello and welcome back to the next part in our interaction style series. So if you remember last time we got to this is the BPC underscore interact trace again. We got the interaction text off the object that we're looking at if it implied the interface. I'm going to delete this print text. We know its work. It was just a debug. We've got the information, but what we're going to do with it? Well, we need to put it on the screen. So let's start with let's not start with this. What we'll do, we will create a widget, and so you can put it wherever you like. I think I popped it in here. Yeah, it's called right click. You may have to use the add button because it goes off the bottom of the screen. User interface, widget blueprint. Click user widget, and you want to type w_HUD, and that's it. I'm going to delete mine. Right, I'm going to open my HUD now. Unfortunately, you're going to see things in mine that are already here, but I'll show you how to build this from scratch. So pretend all those aren't there. Right, none of those exist, so you'll have nothing here except WHUD. You want to type up here canvas panel. You want to drag this down and put it on your HUD. I can't do it now because I've already got one, so just drag it onto the HUD and it'll plonk it in. What that does, it makes a box that fills the entire screen. As you can see up here, screen size, fill. So you, whatever the screen size is for this HUD, it will fill the screen. Yep. Voila. Okay. We now need to get some information about our interaction. And to do that, we're going to make a box, which is this one here that wouldn't disappear when I did it. So I'm going to put it viewable. We're going to make this box. It's called a size box. So if you type size box, drag it down onto your canvas panel. Ignore my dot here. That's not important. And you get a size box. Right. That is just a box that we're going to use for now, and what you need to do is your anchors are most likely going to be like that, and your box is probably going to be up here as well. So you want to set your anchor to bottom middle. Okay, you want to set your position X to 0, your position Y to -200, your size X to 800, and your size Y to 200. And alignment is both 0.5 and 0.5. Okay, so alignment is 0 to 1. You want to align by the center, which is 0.5, 0.5. That should give you this. Yeah, 0, -200, 800, 200, 0.5, 0.5. Yep. So this box is going to contain any sort of messages and information, things like that. So to start with, we're just going to use it for our interactions. So what we want next is, if you come to the top left and type into your filter vertical box, drag it in to your size box and let go. Click on it to highlight it, press F2 and type interact box, press enter. That gives it a name. Yep. If you come across to the right, let me make mine visible now. You see it's just this tiny little thing. You want to set your horizontal and your vertical alignment to center on both. Okay. That's pretty much all you've got to do in there. I don't think I've set anything else in there. No. The only thing I've done is visibility collapsed. Okay. You can't see anything regardless at the moment because there's nothing in there. So it's set the visibility to collapsed, and that will become apparent later on. Now we're going to add these other things in here, which we're not going to use for a bit. We only really want the interact text at the moment. But so what we want to do is in the top type in image, drag that down onto your interact box. Then you want to type in space or spacer, drag that down on top of your interact box, and it'll appear behind as the next item. Always drop it on there, it always appears the next item. And then text block again. So it's just called text, sorry, but it is a text block. Drag, not the rich one, drag the text down on top of there and it'll end up as the last one. Okay, so what we're going to do is rename them one by one. So the interact, the image, either hit F2 or come to this box at the top right and call it interact icon. Spacer can stay as spacer, and the text block, interact text block. Now it's not important what you use, it's important that you just remember that's what you've used, because they will be relevant later on. So on the interact icon, leave set size to auto, but set horizontal and vertical alignment as center. Okay, then come down to the brush if it's not expanded, and then image size if it's not expanded, and set that to 64 by 64. That's all you need to do on there. Spacer, click on that, and just come down to size and just change the Y, the second box, to 20. It just adds a bit of a space. So if I show you all these boxes, this is what it should start looking like. Spacer, and then interactive text box, interact text box, you want fill horizontal, fill vertically. Yep. And text block is all that's in there. If that's not in there, top, whatever you like, you're not going to see it because you're going to be changing it. So you should have something similar to that now. Okay. I don't think I've set any other values in here. You could change your font if you want to. There's not many in here. I'm using Dried Sans Mono. There's Roboto Tiny and Default. You can add your own fonts in at some later date, but yeah, I find that's good enough. What font size am I using? I think it was 16. Yeah, 16. Again, you can go bigger. Small I wouldn't recommend, but you can try. Okay, that basically is now our hierarchy for our HUD that at the moment allows us to show some information. What I'm going to do now is just show you that interact icon, tick this box is variable. Spacer doesn't matter, and interact box, tick that box is variable. Okay, again, ignore dot, we'll show you that later on. Hit compile and save, and then hit graph. Okay, so this is all I've got in here though, and it's going to the event graph. So there's nothing. This is what you'll have, an event graph. It's nothing. There's nothing there. What we're going to do, we need to be able to take some commands in from the player when certain things happen, and at the moment there's only one thing that can happen, and that's we can interact with something. So when we interact with something, we want to show some information. When we stop the interaction with something, we want to hide it. So there's two functions we're going to need. So if you click on the plus here, go to functions here, click on the plus and type in fn show interact. Then when it opens, we're going to have this nice little messy spaghetti. All right. Okay, click on this. You won't have none of the other stuff yet, so ignore that now. Just click on your purple openings here, purple, pink, whatever you call it. Come to inputs and click plus, type in icon, and you want to change the type to texture 2D. Come to texture 2D and object reference. Click the plus again, this time call it interact text, and change that to type of text, and come off. So that will leave you with this just on its own. Okay, So now what we can do is, from here, what this will do is when it's called, it will send an icon and an interactive text. Okay, so if you drag off here and type set interact, you may have to untick the contents box. Oh no, you can't do it directly. So what you need to do is drag out, scroll down, drag out interact text block. Yeah, out here and click get. Text. There we go. It's really weird. It's under just text, so it's there set text, but it's under content set text. Really strange. Why they're doing that, I don't know. So you drag off your interact text block and just type set text. Okay, hook that in there as the first port of call from your exec into the set, and then from your interact text pin there into your text. So you should have that. I've just tidied it up and put that neat. Drag out and type branch, and it'll give you this node. Ignore what's after it yet, but what we want to do is we want to check to see if this object is valid, because we may or may not have sent an icon, and that's why I'm doing the check, because at the moment we're not going to be sending any icons. So you drag off here, type is valid, and you want the one without the question mark. The one with the question mark creates a node. Okay, you can use that node instead, but I just find it better to do this because I'm used to using branches. So you've dragged out, you've got this is valid, and put that into the branch. Yep. Okay, if it's true, we're going to set the image to the icon. Yeah, so rush resource to texture, from texture. Yeah, drag your interact icon in first, drag off, and then set brush from texture. Yep, which gives you this. Target should be your interact icon, which you've dragged in from your left. That's why we made it as a variable. The texture comes straight from the icon. I've just made it nice and neat, so you bring it straight from the icon into texture. You can go in a straight line all you like. I've just made it nice and neat. Okay, and the match size we're not going to touch. Then we want to drag off our interact box, get, drag off, and go set visibility. It should be under behavior, not widget, behavior, set visibility. Yeah, and that comes from there into there. Yeah, the false comes straight to the, it ignores this, it bypasses, it goes around it and goes straight into there. You can either do that, or I've made it nice and neat. Either way, true and false go into this one, but true goes through this first. So you should have a set node on the text for the interact text block, a check on the icon if it's valid. True goes to a set brush from texture. The texture comes from the icon here, and the target is the interact icon here. Out of that into visibility of the interact box in itself, which is there, and the false goes straight to the visibility and ignores the icon because we haven't got one. And that's that. Leave that there for a second. Looks more, probably might look more confusing because I've rerouted a lot of this. It looks like there's more there than there is, but there isn't. Compile and save. Come back to, scroll it back up again and hit the plus again on your functions and type in fn hide interact. This one's a lot easier. Double click on it, go inside, drag in your, scroll down and drag in your interact box onto here and use a get. Yep, drag off it and type set visibility behavior, so this one, Yep. And set it to collapsed. Okay. And then you just hook your interact into it, and that's all it is for that one. It just hides it away. So now what we're going to do is going to add this to our screen. So if you compile and save, we can come out of this completely. You can close that for a bit. You don't need it. We now need to go back to our interact trace. Okay. So we're going to need to add that widget to our viewport. So in our interact trace, if you come to our begin play, we need to do it after this. But what I don't like to do is following this. Because if there's a problem with this and it gets hung up, it's never going to go to the next one. So we can use something called a sequence. You may or may not know it. So off your begin play, drag off and type SEQ, and it should automatically highlight sequence. And it'll plug that one into one. And all this does is says do this, then this, and you can add more. Yeah, and more. Yeah. Let's just remove and remove. So our next step is we need to attach the HUD. So that widget we've just created. I'm not sure if I stored the HUD. Yes, I did. So we'll now do that. So if you click plus on variables, type in HUD. I'm going to write it backwards because I've already got a HUD. I'm going to do. And the type is going to be the same type as what we just made, which was called W underscore HUD and object reference. Okay. Make sure it's object reference. I'm going to delete that one because I already have it. So you should have a HUD of type WHUD. Excellent. Right. So on our second part of the sequence, we drag off and we say create widget. Yep. Click on that. And the owning player, if you highlight over it, it's actually not a bit misleading because it's not the player, it's the player controller. And just as I said earlier, we need the player controller, which is here. So we'll drag that off, owning player. Yep. The class, well, now what we could do, we could drag this out and get its class, but there's no point. We're now using HUD, so we're going to call this WHUD. Okay. So we now know we're creating a widget called WHUD. Then what you can do is drag your HUD from here, click and hold, drag, drop it on the return value. That will set that value to the new widget that we've just created. But it doesn't do anything. We've created the widget, but if I just compile and say that, you don't need to do this. If we click play, oh, what's going on? Where is our HUD? Well, it's not there because we haven't shown it on the screen. So we need to now add to viewport. Yeah, not player screen. It's viewport. That's the local player's viewport. If you drag it from there and do it, it creates all this itself. That now puts the HUD on the screen. If we compile and save that, we come out and oh, nothing's happening. The HUD is there, right? And to prove that, just for now, we're going to show it. Yeah, we're going to run our command that shows the HUD. Yeah, so we'll drag off. Actually, no, we'll drag off here, and we'll say fn show interact. This is only for debug. I'm not going to be leaving this on here. And if I compile and save, we should get an empty HUD. There we go. The image box is there, which is blank, so it always says white because it's got a white null brush in it or a brush of white, whatever. But just goes to prove that our HUD's there. Yeah, it's empty. So there's no point putting this here. We don't want it there. When do we want it? Well, we want it here. We have just interacted with an object. Well, we found out we can interact with an object, and we found out what we can do when we interact with this object. So this is where we want to show our item on the HUD. So if we drag our HUD out, get HUD, and then drag off the pin and type fn, and you want to put show interact, drag off there to there, and we've got our interaction text. There we go. We haven't got the icon, not done anything like that. That's neither here nor there, but yeah, that's it. Compile, save. If we run now, nothing's happening, but oh, look, I'm a cube. That's our interact text, but I walk away and it's still telling me I'm a cube. Simple fix. We just need to do the same here. We need to get our HUD and we need to FN hide interact. Okay. You can either use this one here or you can drag in another HUD. It's whatever you find that's tidier, but to be fair, I would probably best to do that anyway. And then, oops, should have just done this in the first place. It's tidier, and that one as well. Okay, compile, save. And now if we run around with our player, I'm a cube, oh, I'm a cube, oh, I'm a cube, oh, I'm a cube, oh. How good is that? We now have interaction. Like I said, ignore the icon being blank. The reason I'm leaving the icon there is because it's just to show for debug purposes. It will be used at some point. But now, let's make sure that's saved. We have interaction, and we can see it on the screen that we're ready to interact. But we can't do anything with the cube because we have no interaction. I don't think I'm even going to put anything in the cube. I think I'll rather go on to something that actually has an interaction. So all this code I've done here, I've put half of it into a function. I'll just show you mine. You can leave yours however you like. I've put the trace into a function, and then I've put the rest in the event tick, which was down here. There we go. All the trace gets done there. Then I do the checks. Same again. I do all the interaction text here, but I actually have something else here, and that there is grabbing the icon. Okay. Yeah, that one's grabbing the icon, and that one's if it's not got an icon. Yeah, you don't have to do it this way. I've just done it this way for my own purposes. As long as you remember where you've got it, I will be delinking mine here because I already have it. So if I delink that there using Alt click, and if I come down and go to here, and I'll just show you what mine actually does. This flip-flop, what it does is every other frame it will run it, and then every other frame of every other frame, so that's every fourth frame, and then every other frame of every other frame of every other frame, which is every eighth frame. It's a bit of an optimization thing. I don't think I need it, but I've just put it in there to show that you can, you know, take a bit of load off the processor or the GPU as well. But let me compile and save that, so you don't have to put that. That was an optimization thing I was messing about with. Now if I run, I have, oh, nothing. And why is that? Let me have a look. Have I disconnected all of it? Just run the trace. It's got the interact. Let me just, if you've never done this before, this is a good debugging tool. If you highlight a node and click F9 on the keyboard, or right click and toggle breakpoint, same thing, or remove breakpoint. I'm just going to run that. It's not actually working. Have I disconnected my something here? That's odd. I've broken my own thing. I'll fix that another time. But that's, it's not getting there. If I hit F9 on that one, we'll see if it's getting there. I don't think you have to save it for that. It's getting there. My trace is working. It's just not picking up this for some reason, so I'll take that off there. But that just goes to show you how you can debug a little. If I come to my first person character and set my trace, let me just see if I'm picking this up. I'm not picking it up. But why? I'll show you why in a minute, because this object is different to, say, a door I've made, and only in one special way that I didn't add to the cube as a test object like now. And let me just bring in a door, and as you can see, this one will toggle. Okay, I'll just turn the toggle off, click play again, and as you can see, open door. And as you can see, I've got this icon coming up. But have you noticed when I hit the door frame, even though it's part of the same object, it's not giving me the icon, but the door is, which is why this fails. There's a change I made later on that I use so that when I target an object, I'm only targeting the thing that's operable. The frame's not operable, you can't do nothing with the frame. It doesn't open the frame, but you open the door. But it's all in the same object, and I haven't put that on here. And I'll just quickly show you that. We'll go into the drawer, just to show I'm not talking about the backside. It's a later change I did, and I forgot about this test cube that I made. Interactables, BP Interact Cube. What I did was, because there could be many objects sitting here, so if I add a sphere, yeah, bring that up, save that. But what I did is, let's do it to the sphere. The sphere here, if you come, make sure it's selected there, come across here and type tags, add a component tag, and I think I called it interactable. Okay, compile and save. But I haven't done that to this one's blank, but the sphere is. So let's have a look. So if I aim at the cube, nothing. If I aim at that, it's saying it's a cube because that's a cube. But as you can see, that's how I've done it. So that's how I've done the frame. The frame hasn't got that tag, but the door has, right? And that's part of the check now, which I'll add later on. But that's what we've done. Specific objects are usable and some aren't. So if you come to an object here, and it could be a globe, and you've got to rotate it so that, oh no, the UK is facing towards you. You aren't going to want to be able to click here. You just want to click here to rotate it. Yeah, and that's all I did. So that's why it might not look like it's working. But that's just a minor thing. We'll go back into that in more detail when I put the code in. So I hope that was understandable. I hope you're keeping up. If there's any issues, put it in the comments. I will try and link my Discord channel at some point soon, in case anyone wants a bit more information. I'm not always there, but when I am, feel free to ask a question. It's not a problem. Anyway, there we go. Hope to see you in the next episode. I hope you've learned something, and hopefully you'll come back and keep going. Okay, thank you, and goodbye.